Alright, I'm bringing up the Chick-Fil-A thing again because it's a big story right now, and I have something more to say about it. Now, when, the LGBT, as they say, whines about how gays are being discriminated against, and then Christians turn around and say, no, we're being discriminated against based on our religion. I'm a Super Saiyan. No, I'm a Super Saiyan. And it just goes back and forth like that. It's always like that in Western culture, where everything is about their particular group getting discriminated against, rather than we as individuals never really get equal opportunity for anything because we're always defined by what group we're a part of or what we're considered to be part of, rather than who we are as people and what we're being denied. And that's why there is an incredible job loss rate. That's why most people can barely afford to provide for themselves. That's why shit is the way it is and why it sucks. So what I'm saying here is whether or not I agree or disagree with Chick-Fil-A's stance on gay marriage is not the point. Whether or not the stupid mayor in the city does not want to open up a Chick-Fil-A in their city makes no mind to me. The same thing happens with Walmart. A lot of little towns don't want to open up a Walmart because they say it'll ruin small businesses, which may or may not be true. But it comes down to, do they have the right to do that? And I find it kind of ironic that the same people that are butt mad about cities discriminating against business institutions turn around and think businesses have the right to discriminate against who they hire, who they fire, how they treat their employees. Every step of the way they get to discriminate. Oh, it's perfectly fine to discriminate against people when it's not affecting you. Hence why I talk about moderators. Oh, it's fine to discriminate against people for their opinion or just because you feel like doing it when it's your forum. And meanwhile, that's the entirety of the internet. We have no freedom on the internet despite how we pay out the asshole for it. Yes, I pay internet every month so I can get fucking told by some jackass that I'm not allowed to be on his website. Really? So, to me this issue isn't about whether or not Chick-fil-A is right, or the gay community is right, or that city in particular is right, or anything of that sort. I look at it like, get your priorities in order. That's what this is about. How are you going to complain in one breath about Chick-fil-A being discriminated against, and then turn around and say businesses can discriminate all they want to, the internet can discriminate all they want to? It's just inconsistency. And some libertarians are crazy enough to say, well, they can discriminate all they want to, and the free market, meh, meh, meh. That's what the free market comes down to, fucking people over. That's all it's about, is the right to fuck people over. That's the only right you really have under the free market. You don't have the right to freedom of speech, you don't have the right to freedom of association, you really don't have the right to bear arms or any of the other constitutional amendments. You only have the right to fuck people over, and if you can get away with fucking people over the most and getting ahead the most because of that, more power to you. And that's what's so despicable and sickening and frightening about these people, that they actually believe this shit. And do you honestly think that kind of mentality is going to benefit you, Mr. Middle Class living in your mom's basement? No. It's going to benefit the Walmarts, it's going to benefit Microsoft, it's going to benefit Apple, it's going to benefit all these big names, not you. So get over yourself. That's the way I look at it. I look at it as, there is no right way to discriminate against people. There is nothing right about it. But you cannot claim that one discrimination is somehow less intruding than another. It's not somehow, better that Chick-fil-A cannot open up their establishment as opposed to how Chick-fil-A runs their establishment to begin with. Does Chick-fil-A have this policy of not hiring gay people? Does Chick-fil-A somehow try to discriminate against gay customers? Now, mind you, I have no proof of that, and I doubt sincerely Chick-fil-A is going to try to go out of their way to discriminate against gay people. They're just opposed to gay marriage. That's a perfectly legitimate stance. Whether or not you agree with it, you have to at least give them respect they deserve to say, well, you're entitled to that opinion. I can see where you're coming from on that. I may not agree with it, but, there's a reason for it. And, that's all Chick-fil-A is saying. And for that, now everybody's out for their head. And then people don't want me to say that there's a gay mafia. People don't want me to say that the LGBT is one of the biggest special interest groups in the United States. When, look around you. Look at how vicious people get over this shit. Over something so petty as Chick-Fil-A, a restaurant that sells chicken burgers, saying, we don't want gay marriage. That's it. They're not even saying that gays aren't people. They're not saying that somehow gays should be given worse sentencing for crimes or anything like that. I know damn well they wouldn't be able to get away with saying that anyway. They may feel that way internally, but that's not their stance. Their only official stance is, we don't want gay marriage. So let them feel that way. My issue here is, why are we worried about Chick-fil-A and worried about what this city is doing rather than we as individuals are being screwed because discrimination is allowed in every facet of our lives? We're not free on the internet. We're not free in the workplace. We're not free anywhere. That should be the issue. If in reality we were all equal, businesses would not be able to pick and choose who they hire to begin with. It would be a lottery system. As long as you were qualified for the job, then they would have to pull a lottery lever of whether or not they hire you. The employers would not get a say in the matter, because that would be discriminatory. And some people might say that's incredibly inefficient, that's just liberalism taken to a extreme end and makes no sense at all. But it would work. You wouldn't be discriminating anymore. So clearly you're not really against discrimination. You're just against discrimination when it involves your gang colors, when it involves your special interest group, whether that be the religious zealots, or whether that be the LGBT, whether that be the blacks, or the Muslims, or the Jews, or the women, or the men, or anything like that. And that's not the way we should be condoning things. That's not the way we should be conducting ourselves in a free society. And I understand why people do it. There's really no other way to get your point across. And that should say something about your culture. It should say something about your culture that unless you identify yourself as some kind of Dungeons and Dragons class where you're a level 22 LGBT wizard, you don't get a fucking say in anything. And that should concern you more than whether or not Chick-fil-A is allowed to open their stupid-ass, expensive chicken burgers restaurant in a freaking city. So, but nobody's going to talk about that, because that would require some kind of inner dialogue. That would require them looking in a mirror and seeing their own hypocrisy. And they're not going to do that. They're not going to sit down and think about how, maybe Jim Prophet was right all along about moderators. I wouldn't want Chick-fil-A to be discriminated against to be able to open up their business. Maybe it isn't right that people get discriminated against all the time to be ejected from websites, including big chain websites such as YouTube or Facebook. YouTube has no business discriminating against anybody. I don't care if you think they're a troll. I don't care if you think that their opinion is ignorant. I don't care whether or not you think that they deserve it. That's not your fucking place to do. It's not your job. It's not your authority to be dictating who can and cannot post, who has and has not a right to be on the website. I don't care if you own it. That isn't right. It is morally wrong, and in many regards, it's legally wrong. We have discrimination laws on the books in many different countries. So why are you pretending like it's sometimes okay and then other times it's not okay and things like that? Why? Because it benefits your little interest group. It benefits your little clique, your inner circle. And that's sickening. That's a bastard mentality. And you gotta realize that, or else you are never going to get any better in this life. Nothing is ever going to change so long as you continue to believe this way. So, that's really all I have to say on the matter. I'm more offended by the fact that in this whole argument between Chick-fil-A and the city, we're not talking about the issue of moderators in and of itself. The entirety of the moderator issue transcends just, me not wanting to get banned from a forum. And I've said this multiple times. This is about the very structure of our society and how we do things, and how we really don't value freedom as much as we claim we do, by any stretch of the means. Because at the end of the day, if you did, you would respect your fellow human being enough to leave them alone, and to just conduct themselves the way they see fit, and just let them be. You don't have to like them. You don't even have to be polite to them. You can go on their fucking YouTube channel right now and be like, you are the biggest dick on the planet. People do it to me all the time. But I have the right to be here. I have the right to say what I gotta say. And so do you. So, what's the problem? Why can't we respect each other enough as human beings to say that we have that right, and that we should preserve that right by defending it, and by being vigilant about it, and by seeing rights as the rights of the individual, as opposed to somehow needing to compete all these groups against each other to one-up each other. Even if it's some liberal regard that, some groups are down here and some groups are up here, and they're trying to level the playing field. It shouldn't be a playing field. This isn't a fucking game. This is people's lives you're messing with. So stop treating it like a game and actually start caring about what you claim to care about. If you care about freedom and equality, then act like it. Care about freedom and equality. And I believe the two are interchangeable. I believe you cannot have freedom without equality. And the only way you're going to be free is when you admit that we do need to be equal, even if it does seem inefficient in the short term. And I actually think that's a great idea where, employers cannot choose who they hire and simply have to pull a lottery in who they hire. They might say that that'll destroy their business or whatever, but I don't see any reason why. You're not a mind reader. You don't know for certain if the people you hire are going to be good or bad either way. So, who's to say? It's just as much of a dice roll as if it was a literal dice roll. The only difference is, now you aren't in charge of that person's life. Now you're not responsible for whether or not they have a job. It's up to fate. It's up to the math in the sky. And, some people may not be able to comprehend that and just think that that's somehow worse by principle. But no, it can't be any worse than someone else dictating where your future is held. So that's really all I have to say here, is the fact that, and that's not even socialism. A lot of people would say that, of course you believe that, Jim Prophet. No, socialism would be the state controlling the private means of production. What that essentially is just a controlled economy. It's Keynesian economics. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. But no, it's not socialism. People still own the private means of production. People still have the profit motive. There is still monetary value. There is still class hierarchy. The only difference would be that you're not allowed to discriminate against people. You're not allowed to directly involve yourself in their lives, and you have to basically take a gamble within the capitalist system. So no, that isn't socialist. That just isn't free markets. And the conservatives in the U.S. are just so religious, more religious than any Christian denomination, more than the Christian doctrine, more than their, Westboro Baptist Church and everything else people want to bitch about. Your real religion is the fucking dollar. Your real religion is this goddamn free market mentality. You worship that more than you do any god. I don't care what anybody says about radical Christianity, fundamentalism, things like that. At the end of the day, what you really worship is this idea of the free market, that it's good that people get to discriminate against each other. That it's good that somehow your employer gets to decide whether or not you live or die because they get to decide your paycheck. That's the religion of the U.S. and to a lesser extent the entire Western Hemisphere. That is the religion of most first world countries. And it's wrong. It's completely wrong. I don't want to hear nothing about, claiming that you're, for equality and that you don't want to see discrimination happen in the workplace or anywhere else, that you want everyone to be treated equally under the law and ethically, and then you support the free market system in one regard or another, especially when it comes to the internet, because that's where you could, by example, lead. The internet could very easily be the equalest place on earth. It could happen tomorrow, but you don't want to do it. So, I don't fucking want to hear about how, Chick-Fil-A is being discriminated against, or the gays are being discriminated against because of Chick-Fil-A. No. Jim Profit is being discriminated against. You're being discriminated against. Every single one of my viewers is being discriminated against. Every single person that dislikes my videos is being discriminated against. And you don't care about them, you don't care about yourself. You care about the fucking clique. You care about your own little mafia syndicate that isn't benefiting directly from this little feud. So, you don't know what you're talking about. That's really all I have to say. See you later.